Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Trondheim National Park. We're making the trek back up the mountain today to build a park for the dogs, a hillside home for a fearsome pack of Arctic wolves. I hope you've had a great week, animal lovers. It is time to grab your furry four-legged friends and settle in for a build for the whole family, tails and all. Today's wolf pack has been brought over all the way from a protected area of Greenland, where they don't have the largest population, but we've been lucky enough to find a group that needs to be relocated due to expanding territories. Now, immediately, you will notice a strange pathing layout. As you no doubt know by now, this is a mountain. And as you might expect, mountains can be a bit tricky for space. So the idea here is that the viewing walkway and overwatch point are built onto the surface of the mountainside and into a smaller peak, giving it an interesting aesthetic. And the path that will be used to reach the walkway, and the rest of the zoo beyond, is dug through the mountain underneath. Of course we are doing it a little bit backwards, building the mountainside over the path, but you know, all roads lead to Rome. It wouldn't be a Trondheim video without a sizable helping of rocks, so strap in for a couple of minutes. I had an idea when I started what I wanted this viewing area to look like, but really no idea about how to go about making it. So a lot of what you see is guesswork, and a lot of what you don't see is the first and second attempts that were undone and retried before accepting that this was as good as I was going to get it. It's surprisingly challenging to create a specific shape with all the smaller pieces. A mountainside or cliff face is one thing, but trying to make a new shape that all fits together correctly, neatly, but still rough and natural, like one piece and not lots of little pieces, it's harder than it sounds. Now, as I said, space is an issue, but it's not really space itself. If you look overhead at this zoo, I don't think we've even used more than a quarter of the area yet. What I mean is, well, for example, this area that I've mapped out for the enclosure is all on a hillside. There are no flat areas really, so the guest path ends up being all angular and tricky to work with. And that's real, that's what you'd expect. I went to the Edinburgh Zoo a few years ago. That's built onto the side of a hill, and some areas are quite steep. They have to do their best to create areas for viewing that are good views and comfortable enough to stay for a little while. Talking about space, you may remember at the Highland Reserve, we started the zoo a bit further in from the border. You know, where the game tells you to start. This is useful for a couple of reasons. One, you get more access to the power output from the gates. Instead of the semicircle, you can use the full area. And two, you have room on all sides to build into. I don't know if I just forgot that when I started this zoo, but I kept everything near the border. Not only that, but in a corner. You might have spotted in the Markor video last week, the lake at the bottom is on the edge of the world. Well, that's kind of where we are being pushed towards by the terrain. It's not the end of the world, just makes some angles look a bit less cool. Be amazing if we could change the view outside the map area. Even just having a forest there would be nice. But if we could start with a lake across the border, that would be really fun to work with. There's probably mods for that. I don't have any mods on, by the way. Just thought that was worth mentioning. I don't feel like I've finished the normal game yet, whatever that means for Planet Zoo. Maybe one day though. I know there are a lot of good ones out there. I've seen a few of Leaf's mod showcases, and there are so many things you could do. The number of variations of the same types of animals is insane. They could really stack Planet Zoo 2 with like 5 different types of each animal, and I think it'd be one of the most popular decisions among the community. I mean, some of the different lion species, they all look basically identical, it's just a name change and perhaps slightly different requirements, and people would love it. Doesn't matter that it's repetitive, as long as they're real subspecies. It would also be amazing to have more critically endangered or extinct in the wild species, or even recently extinct, you know, like the last 50 years or so. The idea of bringing those animals back, even if it's just in this online world, would Would make a lot of fans really happy. Anyway, I'm rambling about Planet Zoo 2 now, and I don't really know how I got here. I started making this, I don't know what to call it. I said Overwatch before, which is as good a word as any, I suppose. From the outside, it kind of reminds me of one of those posh ski resorts. Or maybe an evil lair from James Bond. Something, somewhere between those two, on that scale. I wanted something stylish, but simple, that gave a good view of the wolves and a decent sightline over the rest of the zoo. I think it's actually a bit low for the zoo view. You see mostly trees, but it's quite a cool perspective to have the landscape that you can see stretching out ahead and then the people walking beneath, and then to turn around and have these beautiful wolves eating and playing. There's no roof though. I don't want guests getting too comfortable outstaying their welcome. I am putting in another guest area just behind this, so I'll have somewhere sheltered to go, but it isn't here. I use this one-way glass a lot throughout this zoo, and just in general. I expect to see a lot more of it because I feel like better for the animals. The fences are quite nice, the guests can see through and the animals can see the guests seeing them, but there's a visible layer of protection between them. With glass it's less obvious. They'll probably learn eventually, but it's not exactly fair to tease a wolf pack with an easy meal and then have them collide with an invisible force field. Either let them see the barrier or let them hunt the guests. Point being, blacked out windows for them, great unobstructed views for guests. Something I did think about at the time, but I clearly forgot, was I was going to put in a fence with a single cable about a foot in from the outer fence. Like a protective barrier to stop the wolves going too close to the fences and taking little fingers. That or a railing on the outside like there is by the foxes to stop the guests getting too close and sticking their stupid fingers through for the wolves to eat. Clearly I decided evolution was correct. Survival of the fittest. If you're the type of person to reach into a wolf's mouth, you deserve to have a few fewer fingers. There are a couple of enclosures since the snow leopards, I think. I have forgone the constructed structures in favour of natural-ish caves. That's including ones in future episodes, mind you. Makes some sense though. It's a little harder for keepers to do inspections, or a bit less safe anyway. But it looks a lot more natural and probably more familiar for the animals that were once wild, or at least kept safe in wild-like conditions. It's also not unthinkable to make a cave, to dig out some rock from a mountain, maybe make it safe on the inside so that the animals can use that. I don't know. Maybe it's not safe, but it looks good to see the animals exiting the cave together in the mornings, and the little puppies venturing out to explore their habitat from their safe space. I don't think a barn would have quite hit the same. This is episode 9 of Trondheim. I don't think I have a tally for the overall. I should check that. Hang on a sec. Episode 9 of Trondheim, episode 20 overall. Not counting the walkabout at the end. Feels like more than 20, but maybe that's because of the break. Anyway, episode 9, and at this point I am playing on the hardest difficulty. Why? No idea. I thought it made sense at the start, but this enclosure is the start of a slump. Episode 10, the big double digits, next week's episode, was supposed to be the big one. However, when I finished the wolves, we were losing money at an alarming rate. So, plans are changing somewhat. I will eventually change the difficulty because, what am I trying to prove, eh? But until then, you'll get to witness my struggle and floundering efforts to make profit again. It's not pretty, but you gotta do what you gotta do. That's future me's problem anyway. For now, we're still working on the wolves. I'm actually finished with this zoo. I have all the building recorded, it's just the editing to do now. I won't spoil anything, but there are some very interesting builds to look forward to. And then we're off to somewhere new. Somewhere warmer. The sun at last. I'm getting ahead of myself again. Focus. There's still a lot of cool stuff to do in Trondheim here. Stuff that needs explaining. Something I overlooked in the snow leopard habitat was the need for some sort of safe entry into the enclosure. The sheep and the markhor don't really need anything. Neither did the penguins, although just for the sake of the sheer number of them it would probably help quite a bit. But the carnivores, the predators, they really need some sort of airlock. If not for the keepers, then for the guests. If the worst did happen and a wolf attacks a keeper at the gate, at least it would then be stuck in its own little jail. So that's what we're adding to this wolf enclosure today. A jail. Like those ones in the expensive jewellery stores that come down around the doorway. Whereas, where they would be trapped in with a sack of diamonds, these would be trapped in with a half-eaten employee, and I would have to start paying hazard pay. But at least the guests are safe, I suppose. I didn't do anything special for now. It's literally just a cage. But it's something I think I could use as a base to then develop in the future for other animals. If I remember to, that is. It'll also be added to the snow leopard cage, just for the sake of keeping the safety high and the insurance premiums low. While this safety precaution makes perfect sense at face value, it's also worth pointing out that there is a large area of this enclosure with no barrier whatsoever, where if a wolf got hungry enough it could just leap down on top of the guests walking beneath. But we don't need to dwell on that. Those are real world rules, and everyone knows wolves are afraid of heights. Oh, something I was going to say earlier, around when we were building the Overwatch platform, I put a heater in the centre. You know the ones. They're all over the zoo at the moment. They're tall patio heaters that for some reason need electricity despite clearly producing flames. I put one in the middle and didn't think anything of it until I returned one day by chance to find many guests leaping, trying to get the attention of God to save them from this trap. Yes, I am God in this scenario. People were getting trapped in the centre, in the fire, and then looking to me for uppies. I did save them, but no doubt they all went and asked for a refund and then probably died of starvation and exhaustion, so I guess they got what was coming to them in the end. Honestly though, the religious parallels are uncanny. Trapped in eternal hellfire, begging for salvation from a creator who built the world you live in, but resents your presence in it. What a rush. Now eventually we'll get to the plants. It's kind of the finishing touches, so I'm rarely still speaking by the time we get there. Thankfully, man's best friend's ancestor is a good boy and likes a lot of coverage, so we can use plenty of grass and bushes to bring everything together. A few trees to balance the rock work, and a few treats and a head scratch for a job well done. I will say I think the aesthetic of the mountain is unmatched. I love how different this is compared to the reserve, how much character it has. But it's so infuriating trying to find a good place for some of the enrichment items, specifically the ones that flatten an area. I should probably figure that stuff out before I decorate, but I don't know where I want everything at that point. But when I wait until later, it ruins an entire area. Poor wolves nearly got a dozen cardboard boxes to play with. It was doing my head in. I did find some spots where it was less destructive in the end, but good grief, it was not a good time. I'm still in two minds whether or not to do a quick video around all the guest spots in the zoo. I said initially that I would, and then I said that I wouldn't, so either way I'm going to have lied. My thing is, I don't want to spend too long showing them on the walkabout at the end. I'd rather move through everything quickly, but at the same time, what is there to talk about? I did have a comment about it though, and I am a people pleaser at heart, so I guess we'll see. I can't show it before episode 11 anyway, as it'll show a little too much. One last thing before I go mute and let you enjoy the rest of the video in peace. I haven't been doing any calls to action on my content. You know, like asking for likes and subscribes. Mainly because I wanted to improve the quality of my videos before doing so. I want them to be worth the effort. I'm now at a point where I'm sort of happy with the production side and I'm just playing with little things all to add some fun. If you've watched this far, then you're either one of my subscribers already, in which case I appreciate you immensely, or you've fallen asleep and you've got autoplay on, so I've just popped up. Either way, I've set a personal goal of reaching 100 subscribers on this channel this year. So, if this is your kind of content, I'd love to invite you to join us on this adventure. There's lots more to come, and I love hearing people's thoughts and create a community for people who love animals and building and strategy and all that sort of thing. So, like, subscribe, anything you want, all are welcome. So let's just all enjoy this ride together. And with that, I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of this wolf den. As always, I hope you have a great week. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hey. and I will see you next week when we return to the Trondheim National Park.